Campaign diary for game session 21, the arrival at Nirvos Valley. When we last left our adventurers, they had met the Far Gods. There were 3 gods who had come to this realm to either to cause mischief, Chris, not pictured here, a god of the undead and evil, but to a neutral god, Rudd, and honestly, the goody two-shoes god, Saint Cuthbert, had come to this realm to set things right. The party had met them and had interactions in a cave, was where we left off last time. But the final act was the drawing of the cards of the deck of many things. And card 3 in particular, called the Comet, required Gareth had to defeat the next creature the party fought in solo combat, so it's one-on-one. If he lived and was victorious, he automatically became 9th level. But in the discussions, there was no real way to practically do that without getting him killed. So the Far Gods decided to split the party and take most of the party in one direction and Gareth by himself, because technically once the party comes back, he would be able to be part of the party again and fulfill the card. St. Cuthbert took and guided the rest of the party to a slaver caravan. The Nirvos has some kind of labor camps going on, and the party was they had a much more detailed ambush plan, but unfortunately stealth did not prevail. There was a very large mixed caravan. There was about 4 dozen in total prisoners in that caravan, about 2 dozen halflings, about 2 dozen elves, mostly high elves. There were 4 dragonborn guards, 2 orc sort of baggage handlers, and it was led by a fire salamander. That is the large, ugly creature there to the right. There was a good pitched battle. The salamander went down in a hail of assassins' arrows, whereas many of the other guards were a little bit harder to take down. But when the battle was over, the prisoners were freed. The party met its latest member, Gratian, a halfling warlock, who had, during the journey, asked for help for all the enslaved peoples in that caravan, and a quiet voice whispered and gave them powers that they were able to use as part of the combat. So with the caravan freed, the action moved to a far-off location. St. Cuthbert and Rudd had been working to try and find something, a powerful magical item, and they found it in a far-off jungle. But Rudd took a Gareth there first to basically trigger the Temple Guardian. So the party got to watch Gareth go one-on-one with an awakened tree. Think Treebeard from Lord of the Rings, but much less intelligent, much less interesting. He did battle, he got scratched up a little bit, but he defeated the awakened tree in pretty short order. Once the awakened tree was defeated, the entire party was finally unified. Gareth got his boon of elevating to level 9. And they were able to enter the Elven Crypt, where a number of challenges faced the party. One challenge they had to overcome was a trap and riddle room where the door slammed shut. The Goliaths tried to lift the doors. It wasn't happening. The party managed to answer a riddle and open the trap before the room flooded. The next thing, there was another room where it had a number of amulets, but there were 8 amulets. Only a certain 2 would actually, you had to wear 2 that would allow you to pass forward. There was some trial and error efforts by one of the Goliaths, but they realized it was a little too dangerous to power through it. And then the final was, there was a locked sarcophagus. There was a series of 5 locks, and over time, healing and a lot of effort, they were able to unlock it and find 3 treasures. The first is the Oath Bow. That is one of the great elven weapons. There may only be half a dozen or a dozen of these in the world at any one point of time. It's a very powerful bow. The second is what is called the Chaotic Quiver. It's a quiver which turns normal arrows magical, but it also imbues them with a random extra type of damage when they hit. There was also a number of arrows plus 2 included. Again, this elven crypt was a brave elven warrior somewhere in a jungle. With that, St. Cuthbert and Rudd returned the party to the north. Now, they returned them far closer to their objective than when they started. And the next real big task for the party was to get past the fire giant. He was guarding the gates to Nirvos' lair. There was a small wall. He was throwing major rocks. We closed distance and had a short, brief battle with him to get the party actually into Nirvos' backyard finally. Not far after entering the valley, the party came upon the crypt of Valus himself. The party, found, the Death Knight MacGuffin of the adventure. This elven Death Knight who has been wrapped in as part of the story of Valus of Nirvos for the entire campaign. Now, one thing the party members did notice as they were going in, most crypts are designed to keep out grave robbers. In this case, they recognized as they moved in deeper, this crypt was designed to contain Valus. One of the things they found on the way that raised some questions was they found there was a series of 6 coffins. 4 of them had names of human names and elven names and dwarvish names that has been lost to history, if you want a good euphemism. There were 2 coffins, however, that were open. There were no lids affixed, but the names above the coffins, one was Hargul, our dwarven lich wizard of incredible power that we brought up a few lessons ago, and the other was Faith. And questions abounded about what that entailed. After that burial room, however, the party moved south finally into the crypt of Valus. And in a very large room, there was 2 images suspended. On the left, suspended in midair, was the dark physical body of Valus. The strong, proud lines of the face of the former wood elf who had fallen from paladinhood to becoming a death knight. Suspended in midair on the right, in a perfect sort of mirror, was this glowing red image. It was the power and spirit of Valus. In the discussions and the investigations of the party, they know something is keeping these 2 things apart. If they would come together, Valus would be reunited to some effect. But where we were at in the discussion, they never were. This was one of the last things of the night. What do we do about this? But while in the crypt of Valus, there was a major revelation. Lucy's heritage, Lucy's backstory came into play. Lucy, the Wood Elf sniper assassin, who's been dealing bow damage in this campaign for many, many sessions, has been journeying with the party in game time for several weeks. This is a very capable warrior who's really helped out kill some monsters with sneak attacks and things like that. It crept through the party that there was a striking resemblance between Lucy, standing there amongst them, and Valus. And it turned out Valus, when she was alive and still a wood elf, was Lucy's mother. This sort of big plot. There were hints of this along the way. I think Hargul alluded to it when he was saying why you're trying to seek out Valus, why are you trying to seek out Nirvos? And he said for some it's glory, for some it is greatness. For others, it was personal, and it identified Lucy. So this was a big reveal. And when we left the party, people were, Lucy was unsure how to feel about this. The party was unsure how to feel about this, but it was the beginnings of a pretty good cliffhanger for our next game session. But wait, we had another one. Just as we were ending the game session, the party heard the loud pincered sounds of Dalron the Gabrazu. This attractive individual had made his way into previous discussions, but he was also trapped when Gareth pulled the deck of many things. Their fates are now intertwined. And the last thing we brought up was that all of a sudden, here's Dalron, he's back. And so one of the things we will play out when our next game session begins is this social interaction between the party, Dalron, and Gareth to see how it plays out. So what happens when our adventure continues? Well, first thing, big thing, and all the hectic craziness, everybody levels up. So for two of our characters, Gratian and for Gareth, they're already level 9, so all their paperwork should be done. But if we played a little bit longer in the haste, everybody is now up to level 9. That will give you our next game session to experiment and play with your new toys before the final battle. When our adventure continues, the question is, how will Gareth and Dalron's conversation shake out? What will happen? Will there be alliances made? Will there be friends made? Or what will happen? How will things move forward with the party, Lucy, and their new knowledge of her heritage? It may be peace, love, and kumbaya, but this is something that Lucy herself, the party itself, was sort of still reeling with that revelation. And the big theme for much of our next game session is what will the party find in the rest of Nirvos Valley? Just how deep is Nirvos' evil? That exploring that valley is a big theme for next time. With this in mind, we have just 2 game sessions remaining. Friday, November 22nd is exploring Nirvos Valley. Because of Thanksgiving and other holidays and finals, Friday, December 13th will be the battle with Nirvos, the confrontation with Nirvos. That is planned to be the entire game session. Now, one thing as we are nearing the end of the campaign I want to put forward is if you have plot questions, ideas, things you want answered, there will be no spoilers. But once the battle with Nirvos is over, if you have plot questions, ideas, things from going ahead, I will take all your questions after the Battle of Nirvos. So, with that, get your D20s ready, get set, and be ready to play on November 22nd when we explore Nirvos Valley.